love to introduce Mr. Gunjan Bhadla, who is the founder and managing director of Amrit Ventures, a consulting firm. He has written articles on doing business with India, including outsourcing and globalization, some of which have appeared in Business World, Bloomberg Business Week, and other publications. Please welcome Mr. Gunjan Bhadla.
All right, wonderful. So, welcome back after lunch, and now I have the duty of trying to keep you guys awake after all those rich Indian calories. So one rule we learned about dealing with India, you got to be flexible, right? The other rule is you've got to deal with interruptions. When I give talks, I tell people, turn your cell phones on. It's all right. Okay, because when you go to India, nobody turns their cell phones on. You know, people will answer the cell phone in the middle of a movie. They'll answer the cell phone at a funeral. Okay, so my talk is no problem. If you want to answer the cell phone, let it ring, that's fine. You get used to doing business with India that way. India will make you do things that you have never done anywhere else. Okay? And if you listen to the messages, you will do the right things there to be able to succeed. Okay? Last week, L'Oreal announced that their revenue in India, L'Oreal, as you know, is a premium cosmetics company. They're selling over $200 million a year of their product in India. Okay? That's about as much as Colgate-Palmolive sells, and Colgate has been in India for 50 years. Okay? So there is tremendous market potential for those who understand India and can do the right things there. Okay? So why should you care about India? First of all, at Amrit we made a prediction. You saw from the people from the Port of LA that India is the 12th largest trading partner for Los Angeles. Right? Our prediction is that India will become a top 10 trading partner for the entire United States within about 4 years from now. We are also predicting that by 2025, India will be among the top 6 trading partners for the United States. Okay? And if you plot that out on a graph for those of you who are mathematically inclined, that implies a tremendous growth path. So those companies that are selling just $1 million of product into India today maybe ended up selling $40 or $50 million if they do things right. Those who are selling $10 or $20 million could find their business growing much larger. Not everybody will succeed. That's the important thing. Some people will fail and some will fail miserably. But they will fail not because India is not ready for them. Most of the time they will fail because they are not ready for India. Okay? And that requires preparation, and I'll talk about that a little bit. One thing that you need to keep in mind that when you go to India, you will encounter the most friendly environment possible for your business. This was a survey done by Ipsos, where this is about 4 years old, and they asked people, what do you think of the United States? And they went to all of these different countries, and you will see that China was down here, 34%. Canada, our neighbor, 34%. Okay, many of the NATO countries are down here, but India is way up there. Okay, 72% of Indians had a positive view of the United States. The Pew Center does similar studies, and they found similar results as well. Indians, by and large, like Americans, they like the American way of life, they're open to identifying with American brands. So when you go to India, the wind is in your back. Okay? This doesn't mean that they will keel over to American values. In fact, you need to be able to adapt when you go to India. Okay? But it's very, very important to understand that you will encounter a far more favorable environment than almost anywhere else in the world. I'll try and speak in terms of stories so that you can remember them better. The world's largest petroleum refinery system is not in the Middle East, it's not in the United States or Europe, it's actually in a small Gujarat town called Jamnagar, where Reliance built one refinery that opened about 7 years ago, and then they built a second refinery, primarily with American help, that now together the two refineries produce over 1 million barrels of oil per day. In the setting up of this second refinery, American companies played a big role. Bechtel had 3,500 engineers working on that project. Many other companies some of them I've named here, General Electric, Foxborough, Dow Chemical, Foster Wheeler, they had big parts. They all made hundreds of millions of dollars in the process of building this refinery. Okay? And it is now one of the world's most efficient and most modern refineries. It's up and functioning. Okay? India is spending $1 trillion over the next 15 years in upgrading its infrastructure. The airports are being upgraded, the harbors are being upgraded, highways, they've built what is called the Golden Quadrilateral connecting the 4 major cities, but they're extending that by a tremendous amount. There is a modern metro train system that went into Delhi, and if you read the popular media, even in India, people will talk about Japanese help on that metro system. Okay? What is less well known is that Parsons, which is an American company, had a big part to play in the success of that metro system. Okay? Often the role of American companies is in the background, but they're doing tremendously well. ExxonMobil was exporting over $1 billion a year to India with less than 20 people on the ground there. Okay? So you don't see them very visibly, but they're making lots of money in India. Okay? The railroads are being upgraded, and again, companies like General Electric and others are supplying locomotives to India. They're importing locomotives even though they have local building capacity, because American product is so much better. Okay? So India is now the largest importer of defense hardware in the world. This is according to the Swedish Peace Research Institute, SIPRI. Okay? And right here in Long Beach, okay, just a few miles north of us, Boeing is going to be building 10 of the C-17 transport aircraft, which they will supply to India. At the end of that order, India will be the largest operator of the C-17 aircraft outside of the US Air Force. Okay. So Indian taxpayers are creating and sustaining jobs right here in Southern California, something that a lot of people don't realize. Okay. There's tremendous opportunity if you're in the defense business to be able to engage with India. Now there are some barriers because of rules on both countries, export controls on this side, the defense buying procedure on that side, but things are starting to improve and we are seeing tremendous activity in this area. So India has a tremendous shortage of energy of all kinds. Okay? We talk here about building new power plants because the old ones are being replaced and so on, right? But in India, the average citizen does not get 24 hours of electricity per day. You can't depend on turning on the switch and then the lights come on. Okay. To run a factory, you've got to have backup generators. Okay, and it's tremendously expensive and inconvenient to do that. So the need to fix this is huge. And today, the government as well as the private sector have the resolve to do this. Okay? So again, it's a huge opportunity, hundreds of billions of dollars. And it doesn't matter what kind of energy. Okay? If you have renewable, if you have solar, you have hydro, you have natural gas, coal, clean coal, India needs it all. Okay? So any aspect of the energy infrastructure, any aspect of improving the utilization of energy, any aspect of reducing consumption, LED lights, you name it. Being off-grid is a big part of India's reality. So if you can set up a small generating system to serve a few villages, okay, and it's not even connected to the electrical grid, there's a demand for that, whether it's solar or hydro or any other means. Okay. I met this former NASA scientist who had a company called Space Island, and his idea was to put up these large solar reflectors and send light, sunlight down from space into a remote village to be able to light up that village. And it sounds bizarre, but it's actually even conceivable and workable in an economy like India, where so much of the country is not wired. Okay? So the numbers are tremendous. We are doing a lot of work in nuclear energy. India did not slow down its nuclear development program after Fukushima. It was one of the few countries that announced within 60 days after the Japanese nuclear accident that they were continuing full steam ahead with all of their nuclear development, which includes at least 2 large facilities that will host American technology. Tens of billions of dollars will be spent on GE, Westinghouse, or both. I have a short story about an energy company that this was one of the significant players. We helped them orient themselves to India. We organized their first trip there, and we then helped put together a plan so that they could strategize with the main customer that they would have to be able to address the market in India, and we developed the entire India plan. We helped them hire the first few people there. Okay? I won't dwell on that further right now. But the most significant thing that Southern Californians should know about is that the god of Hollywood, right? We all know who the god of Hollywood is, right? Steven Spielberg is currently a partner with India's second richest man, Anil Ambani, DreamWorks was taken out of the Paramount empire a couple of years ago, and Ambani's Reliance Entertainment invested $300 million. Spielberg raised $300 million on Wall Street, and now DreamWorks is a private company. This is a picture of that's Anil and his wife Tina, who used to be Miss India at one time. They here at the Oscars, and that's Spielberg and his wife and the DreamWorks team. A number of movies have been released that were essentially funded with Reliance money. Cowboys and Aliens and Real Steel, and then the Spielberg movie Pirate Latitude will be out in a couple of years. They won a couple of Oscars, Academy Awards, I should say, at the last ceremony earlier this year. So they are doing well. But if you are in any aspect of entertainment or media, you should know that India's entertainment industry, Bollywood, produces far more movies every year than we do in Hollywood. And the facilities they use are modern, the techniques they use are modern. The opportunity for collaboration around technology, production, co-production, distribution is huge. And today, Hollywood is starting to notice and take advantage of that. So Walt Disney Company has a subsidiary there, Warner Brothers does, and virtually everybody else is moving in there as well. So regardless of where you are in the entertainment ecosystem, India is a place you should consider. One of the factors driving this growth in India is the growth of the middle class. The Indian middle class aspires to some of the same products that we enjoy here in this country, except that many of them are new to this. So they haven't decided what kind of washer or dryer to own. They haven't decided their brand preferences on soap and cosmetics and so on. So there are huge opportunities. So when Amway went to India, they found that I'm not an Amway customer, but I understand Amway makes every product in just one size. So you buy the big size and you use that over a period of weeks or months. But when they went to India, they realized that this approach wouldn't work. The first country in the world where Amway changed this approach. And it was tremendously successful to the point that they're selling $400 million of product a year in India today and expect to double it. Let me point out this picture as well. Distribution, I think, in India is a big challenge. And let's look at this picture. You'll recognize the Pepsi truck. That's what you will notice, right? Okay. I told you guys, in India, you have to be careful and you have to look carefully. I'm not giving you this picture because of the Pepsi truck. Look at this little tricycle, okay? That's also delivering product in India, okay? And this is in the capital city, New Delhi, okay? Your product will travel on all kinds of modes. It could be on horseback, could be on camel, could be on tricycles, okay? And so you have to make your product be able to deal with that kind of manhandling, if you will. To win in India, you have to treat the country as a one-off case. You can't think of it as China 2.0, okay? What you learned in China, often you have to unlearn in India. Okay? Some things are the same, but most are different. And you have to be both persistent and patient. You can't make a flying trip into India and come back with some business. Our pistachio client did, but he was lucky. Okay? Typically, it takes many efforts to succeed. So it takes time and it takes persistence. It also takes boldness. What Amway did, to do something in India that they had never done anywhere else in the world. It's the same thing I told you about Paramount Farms. They did something they had never done anywhere else in the world. And they made those bold statements to be able to succeed. Okay? So let me stop there and see if anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
I work for SBA, and one of the things you find with small and medium-sized companies, which is up to 40 million, is those words you use, patience, persistence, and boldness. Many times that is an investment. Do you have any thoughts for the small and medium-sized companies that want to enter into the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you're a small company, you have to think long and hard before you go to India. India cannot be one of 20 different initiatives you have in a given year. Okay? If it's going to be one of 2 initiatives, you can probably handle it. But anything more than that, chances are as a small business you will fail and you will be frustrated unless you are very, very lucky. So focus is important. Then don't treat India as a single market. It's a country of 1.2 billion people, but it's many, many separate markets for most product companies going to India. So you might just start with Gujarat as a market, or you might start with 2 middle-sized cities. That's what we are recommending for one of our consumer product companies. They're going to start in Chandigarh and they're going to start in Indore. And those are the only two places they will market for the first year. They'll make all their mistakes there and then they'll expand. Okay? So you have to choose your battles very carefully in India. It's like marketing to Europe. You wouldn't sell to Sweden the same way that you sold to Greece. Right? Think of India as if you were thinking of Europe if you're a small company. You folks have been a great audience. Thank you for the flexibility.